My guests today have been delicately uncovered using the finest brushes and are as sparkly and valuable as the Sutton who treasures themselves. From BBC Radio Suffolk, you can hear him Mondays and Tuesdays from 6 p.m. It's Jon Wright.
Good evening.
From the stage, the sound booth, the page and the puppeteering studio, it's the multi-talented Laura Bacon. Joining Laura, hopefully not too past her bedtime, is the sensational Suffolk fox, Mavis. And last but incapable of being least from the fringes of my Twitter feed to the Norwich Fringe Festival, it's the hilarious Ann Hirst, aka the Terrified Writer.
Hello.
Thank you all so much for joining me. We are gathered here today, of course, to talk about Netflix's The Dig. Not only filmed in Suffolk, but entirely based on, in, about, under, through. It's about Suffolk, about as Suffolk as you can get. It's very Suffolk. And the IMDb breakdown is: an archaeologist embarks on the historically important excavation of Sutton Hoo in 1938. It stars Ralph Fiennes as the archaeologist in question, Basil Brown, and Carey Mulligan as the woman who, let's be honest, started it all, Edith Pretty. So I'm going to jump us straight in here and ask what you all thought of the casting of Carey Mulligan.
She's significantly younger than Edith Pretty was, wasn't she?
Significantly. And it's frustrating because I feel she does a very good job. And the chemistry between her and Ralph Fiennes is genuine and their acting styles really complement each other. But it's so distracting. And the minute you realise how young she is, you think she's like doing her GCSE, you know? Like 16 trying to do a bit of Pinter. And you're just like, oh, Carey, like, come on, man.
It's very difficult for casting agents and people, though, because women, when they hit 35, they just disappear, don't they? Where are you going to find actresses actors of that age? I mean, it's just impossible.
Yeah, it's very true. I think they just sort of, a hole appears in the ground and they all fall through it. So someone's just going to have to start digging to find some actresses who could actually play appropriate ages. Sorry, Anne, what were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say that Carey is probably one of those people who can play that sort of role because she's got that quite, I want to say, quite an old-fashioned looking face.
Classic.
And, yeah, but it's that sort of that era. She's very of that era. I mean that in the most flattering way. But yeah, I just adore her. And I wasn't distracted by the age thing with her. I just thought she was quite a presence right from the off.
Was that a red herring though? Like, was that a red herring to make us think, oh, is something going to happen with them, with the chemistry? But then when his wife appeared, it was like, oh, no, I want to be, he can't be unfaithful. And of course he wasn't unfaithful. And I think that was just to tease us a little bit, to give a bit of Hollywood to it. I'm not sure.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I was starting to get on the verge of being incredibly disappointed when she was like doing this sort of smirky, like, oh, would you like to come to dinner? And he was like looking across the mounds like, what, why, yes, that would be lovely. And then she was like putting her nice fancy earrings in and she looked particularly nice that evening. Yeah. And then they were like, no, Monica Dolan's here now. And I was like, good. But, yeah, so I'm thankful that, and they sort of never refer to it again, which is a little bit silly for putting it in the first place, and whether they were just doing that, as you kind of said, to make a point of her youth.
I feel like they just had to do that just because Hollywood. It was like they had a checklist, like, actually we haven't received any romance, and they're like, oh, yeah. well, should we throw in something at the end? Let's get an army guy and a young girl who's got a gay husband, and it's just like...
Oh my god, like...
Throw that in there.
So, Lily James plays Peggy Piggott, and she is married to Mr. Piggott, who I did not Google because he was not as interesting as her. And they did divorce in real life, those two characters, but a long time after The Dig, the character that she falls in love with is entirely fictional, and... It really is, isn't it? It's just the last sort of 10 minutes tacked on the end for a Hollywood producer watching the movie going, hang on a minute.
There's no sex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put some sex in that and maybe make it exciting, because no one wants to watch a film about digging. I do.
Exactly. I think often you see a trailer for a film and you think that they've only written the lines so that they can go in the trailer. So him saying, you say it and I'll dig, and then, will you have dinner with me? Oh, yes, I will, and all that kind of stuff. And obviously they're not Cornish pirates. But that's kind of all comes to nothing, doesn't it? That's not... If you watch the trailer, you would assume that the kind of Stevie subplot of them, will they, won't they, is pivotal to the story, and it's utterly irrelevant, really, isn't it? And it's just there just for those little sound bites in the first 30-second trailer. So it's a bit disappointing. It's a bit like if you watched Rogue One, the Star Wars extra story, there's a lovely line in the trailer saying, this is a rebellion, I rebel. And that's not even in the film. It's obviously just made just so they can have something pithy to say in the trailer. So I very much like the film, but it lost points from me for that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's right. There was a few misleading things actually in the trailer, I felt. One of them was when Rafe was buried in the soil, and then somebody in the trailer mentions, well, everybody dies or something like that. And I remember thinking, so when he did get buried, I thought, well, he can't die because he's in it all the way. And then again, that was just not.
To do, hasn't he?
He's got, surely. But yeah, so I did think as well that the trailer did leave some. I can't bear it when they do that. They give you all their best bits, and you're expecting this, and then what the delivery is something different. So, yeah.
It's funny, I have a standard rule that I go by where if it's a good trailer, it will be a bad film. And if it's a bad trailer, it will be a good film. And I remember watching the trailer of The Dig a few months before it came out. And I was like, ugh, they're gonna try and modernize it. They're gonna put a stupid romance in it. She is playing a woman that is way older than she should be. And then, of course, the movie is very much more respectful than the trailer looks like it's going to be. It's a better story than the trailer gives. You're right. Again, it's like the Hollywood man was like, get the people watching the movie about the digging. And people were like, no one's going to watch a movie about digging, because I believe it was in production for a while with people literally being like, get out of here, digging. No.
I have a theory, a similar thing, that I believe that if you watch a movie for the first 10 minutes, it's those first 10 minutes that will make or break a movie. So if you're not engaged in those first 10 minutes, that's it. Like, you just know from those first 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think
but
that's valid.
I was enthralled by the first moment he said his first line, just because of the Suffolk thing. So even for the trailer, I was like, he's doing it right. He's got the accent. This is insane. Like, I've heard like people try and do Suffolk in films, and they're always pirates or hobbits or not quite. A little bit
Indeed.
Norfolk.
Sorry.
But like, he absolutely nailed it, and I can't even remember what the first line was, but I was like, and I felt emotional. And
he's talking on the boat, isn't he? He's saying there's a dig on, and off he goes.
Yeah.
He's digging.
So I watched it with 3 of my children, possibly 4 of my children, all of my children. Small one didn't pay attention. She's 3. That was understandable. But we've been to Sutton Hoo, and they've done Anglo-Saxons, and they've seen the mask and the helmet and all that kind of stuff. So I thought it would be a good thing for their education to sit and watch it. And there was no Anglo-Saxons in it. They didn't even see the mask or refer to the helmet or anything like that. And and there was lots and lots of nice scenic shots and people eyeing each other up in a pub. And my children, bless them, sat pretty much all the way through it, but I could tell they were looking at me going, why the hell is he making us watch this?
Why do you hate us?
Now, I must say, I went on the IMDb's and I found out that weren't filmed in Suffolk entirely. So that was filmed in Surrey. Mm-hmm.
This is true.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
fun
that
fact.
disappointed me, yeah. And was that really Dis? So I don't know if that was Dis or not. There was a sign in the
There
scene
was a
that
sign
said
for
Dis.
this. Yeah.
Wow. I should like to know every scene and what... Well, I like the pub scene. Was that a real pub in Suffolk?
I
Who
don't
knows?
know. I don't
That's
think
probably
so.
inside a warehouse somewhere. I mean, obviously they couldn't go and dig at Sutton Hoo because it's a valuable archaeological site. So, but it did look very.
You could make a mound. Yeah, you could make a mound in Southwold or somewhere else, couldn't you?
Yeah.
And still have that in Suffolk.
Yeah.
Well, I believed it until I saw the credits. Yeah.
All the cycling along the roads and the boat on the Deben and everything. That was all Suffolk. That looked lovely.
I have a
Right,
logistical
yeah,
question though. Are we expected to believe that the little boy cycled from Sutton Hoo to Diss?
Right.
I wondered about that.
Poor little old
Yeah,
thing.
he was quite tired, wasn't he? But
So that's one real concern, and he shouldn't have done that. And secondly, did you notice when he was on his bike, just on his way to Diss from Sutton Hoo, that lorry that went past him really did get very, very close. I don't know if anyone noticed that.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought
Did
he
you
was
see
going to
that,
be knocked down,
Mavis?
poor little old boy.
I did.
Yeah, I
You
did.
did?
Yeah. Poor little old sausage.
I was actually thinking actors insurance.
Well, I hope he's with equity. Yeah.
I'm sure he will be.
I
I'm sure
honestly
he will
did.
be.
Well, I shall just say one thing before my arm fall off. I would like to say I'm ever so pleased to hear the Suffolk accent back. Well, it's never been in a film before. I say back as starting. We might start something new.
Yeah.
You know, now people. I saw on the Twitters that Netflix UK had actually tweet saying, "I love the Suffolk accent. BRB, that means be right back. Moving to Ipswich," and I couldn't believe it.
I saw that. People were very excited about that.
They didn't show the helmet on the film. I thought that was ever so strange.
I thought the
was
same,
waiting for
Mavis, and it's because, of course, the helmet was in pieces and covered in rust, and they had to take it to the lab. Scene where Lily James's husband goes to the lab. The pieces that he's holding, I'm assuming, are the helmet, because that's where it was all put together. But I expected a big reveal where Lily James sort of pulled the helmet out of the soil in full sort of gold, but it never came.
Well, they could have showed it at the end when they recap and tell you what happened, and then he went on to do this and she went on to do that, and then there was a helmet. Yeah.
And the helmet is the most important thing, isn't it?
No,
This
I should
is
like
true.
to go and see that. Bye, dears.
Bye, Mavis.
Bye, Mavis.
When they went off to the lab, though, they probably didn't do very much restoration. That was the implication, wasn't it?
Yes, I think they were off to sort of canoodle, as it were.
Yes.
Which was an interesting addition, I think. I wonder if it was invented, because I'm not sure if it was invented or if it is based in fact. But I wonder if they did that to make both sides more sympathetic. So no one was really the villain in this piece, would you argue? Or were you like, damn the British Museum?
Well, the British Museum are the baddies in it, and we had a nice bit of kind of class structure interplay, and it was interesting, you know. So obviously Edith Pretty had status from her money, but she was still just a woman, wasn't she? So they were all very much of the mind that she should do what she was told with it all. Mm-hmm. And so that side of thing was interesting. I thought it was just an unnecessary distraction, and it made Mrs. Pigott, what was her name?
Peggy
Pigott.
Peggy
I think
Piggott's a fantastic name.
it is a fantastic name, but it probably lessened her her contribution to it all. I think she was, you know, it was all very kind of suggested that she was there just on the coattails of her husband and all that kind of stuff, and I think she was probably actually there on her own merits a bit more than that. So that was a bit disappointing.
More so than her husband, from what I understood. She was by that point already a fully established archaeologist, had lots of digging around in the dirt behind her, and yet she turns up here and they're like, ha ha, casual sexism, get in the ground, Lily James. And she's like, oh, I don't know how to dig in the dirt. And then she's like, I found something. It's like, oh, come on, Peggy. You're
And then, like, hotel scene. I'm just going to come out of the shower naked and have a towel. Because Hollywood.
Literally, like, quick, we've got Lily James, make her wear no clothes in at least one scene.
Make her naked.
In her contract.
I did wonder,
frustrating.
actually, because at the beginning of Netflix it says sexual references and, like, sex scenes. It's like, no. In a Suffolk film.
Dick.
In the Diggin. No.
But yeah, and she gets a full-on little sex scene behind that broken down wall at the end as well.
Thrown in
so-
right at the end just because.
Sex scene!
There was actually a technique that I wanted to point out that I hadn't seen in many films, where there were lots of scenes where they were talking for a very long time when it was like a previous speech, but then they just showed, I don't know what you call that. I should know
Yes,
this.
that's
it's
right.
Yeah, they were sort of staring at each other with their mouths shut, and then it was a voiceover of either a previous conversation or like they were telepathic
from minutes before. Yeah, and it wasn't just. I know you do that in a little bit in a film, or like if there's an establishing shot, but then that went on for a very long time.
It was most of the film,
and it was almost like this is a new technique that this particular director is going to use.
It's like he's discovered it, and he's like, "Oh, we should use this like all the time."
I quite liked it. It was quite theatrical in that sense.
It was very theatrical, and I thought it really set a tone for the piece. Just to quickly go back to Lily and Kerry, this film does pass the Bechdel test, from what I understood. Are you all aware of the Bechdel test?
Yes, but remind us.
A test in a movie where you need two female characters who are named. They need to talk to each other about something other than a man. Next time you watch a movie, see if it passes that test. You will be very surprised. But this one does. Edith and Peggy do have lots of conversations about her health, about the dig. They do also talk about the men and the son, but there are enough conversations that it does pass that test, which I thought was quite surprising considering there were only two women in the piece. So I'm glad that it feels like someone really went out of their way to ensure that, and I'm really glad that they did, because it easily could have been just men digging in the ground.
But then they threw in the sex at the end, just
to compensate.
And they also wrote out another women's contribution, because the photographers were a couple of school teachers who were on holiday, and they came along and they took all the photographs. So to have the dashy cousin invented to replace them is again taking out their contribution, because they took colour film and some cine film, which is all really, really valuable and was would have been very expensive at the time. So for their contribution to our understanding of and documenting that process is a shame. I don't see why they couldn't have put that in. I mean, they could have then gone off and had sex in the bunker or whatever by the river if that's a requirement.
Well, quite, yeah.
They've denied us of an LGBTQ plus representation there as well. Lily James could have fallen in love with a nice, young, hot female teacher who was taking the photographs. What's wrong with that?
Well, maybe she did.
Yeah, you think, extra girl characters, that would be great.
Yeah,
literally.
I mean, if you're talking about equality and representation, the heterosexual couple get to have sex on camera, and the gay couple get to have a wink and a nudge, and then off down a corridor to so it's all implied and stuff. So yeah, if you're gonna do it, you may as well do it properly. Is my advice, and me and George Michael agree on that.
To get this made, I feel like someone would have had to have ticked all those boxes. And on the other side of that, we do get sweeping shots of the countryside, real Suffolk accents. I mean, we've briefly compared notes on Twitter about how it was incredibly emotional every time Ray Fiennes said like "cool the heck" and all of these Suffolk phrases. I was like, "Grandad? Is that you?"
Yeah, and that's down to Charlie Haylock as well, because he suffocated the script, and I think that's brilliant that they allowed him to do that, so he could say, actually, no, a Suffolk person would say this, and that makes it makes all the difference for us Suffolk people, because like, yes, get it out there, get people listening to this. Like, if they'd said on the heart, that would have been amazing. Yeah. Like, get that in there somewhere.
Presumably there was a big scene when there was a plague of Bishy Barnabys or something like that they edited out.
All of the words, yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be in The Dig 2. More digging.
More digging.
The helmet.
Someone comes in with their helmet.
It's shiny, look.
It's so golden. So speaking of the helmet, I'm asking everyone this. No wrong answers. Do you think that Edith Pretty and the continuation of it have done the right thing by keeping the treasures in the British Museum in London? Or do you think they should have gone to the Ipswich Museum, or even indeed then transferred to the Sutton Hoo Museum?
I think British Museum's quite good though, because then you can see all the mummies and stuff while you're there.
They have a mummy in Ipswich Museum in their Egypt section, so you could go and see it there. I mean, at the time, it was probably the right decision, and people have break into museums, don't they, and nick rhino horns. So if it was very, very valuable, that would be a challenge maybe. But I don't see why now they can't put it all back in Sutton Hoo. People can go there just as much as they can down to the British Museum. And probably while they're at it, the British Museum might need to give a couple of other things back as well.
Just a couple.
Just a few.
Yeah, I agree about Sutton Hoo. I think it's such a special place anyway. It feels like it's a little bit cheated by not being allowed to have its own stuff. When you go there, you sort of go, oh, so the real stuff isn't here. But I think it's about time, especially now.
It should be Sutton Hoo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As opposed to Ipswich, because Sutton Hoo is what it's famous for, whereas Ipswich, you either go to Ipswich to Sutton Hoo, then you're just in Ipswich.
Reason. No, it's interesting. I remember going to Sutton Hoo as a child and seeing the helmet and the treasures, and then reading the small print that was like, not actually the thing, go to the British Museum, lol. And it was my first brush in with like colonialism, as it were, where I was like, I'm sorry, what? Someone came here and took something that belonged to us and it should be here? And then you go to the British Museum and you're like, wow. And then you apply that train of thought to everything that you're looking at.
That's in there, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, we suck.
There's nothing British about the British Museum.
Absolutely nothing, except maybe the ironworks. That's not even the British Museum, that's the V&A. But then I go to the British Museum with my friends and they're like, obviously let's go to the mummy section, and I'm like, okay, but like let's also go to the East Anglia section, and I like push them in front of the helmet and I'm like, this is Suffolk, that's where I'm from. And it is a really nice moment to be able to share that with people, but just as easily they could hop on a train an hour out of London and come and see it, and then go out and look out onto the mounds. And I think that addition with the treasures, the whole thing, would be much better. So hopefully one day they'll return. I think they've popped by and been like, oh, hey, Sutton Hoo, it's us, the real treasures. Anyway, bye, back to London. But hopefully one day they'll be like, we're here to stay, baby. But I don't know whose decision that would be.
Do you know what's interesting also? I used to work in America quite a lot, and I've got lots of American friends, and they're really interested in it too. So it's not just people over here, not just Suffolk, because I keep thinking it's just for Suffolk. It's like, yes, sorry, movie. But quite a few Americans have watched it and said, oh, it's lovely, it's really great, I love the accent. A couple of people know about Mavis. They're like, oh, it's great to actually hear something, because they just know Mavis with the accent. So they're like, oh, that's what it's like on a human. That's actually a real accent. Like, yes, it's finally depicted in a movie on the screen.
Yeah. I honestly can't think of an example of when the Suffolk accent has been used properly in a film.
I think...
Or even outside Suffolk.
Paul Whitehouse did a good job in David Copperfield. It was a bit more Norfolk, but he did the East Anglian, and I was like, okay, fair play. He's done a good job on that. Apart from lots of other people, I think, was there a show called Coast with Stephen Fry, and Tony Slattery did a Suffolk accent with a Norfolk accent probably, and it was so pirate. It was like the most pirate accent you've ever heard. And also Yesterday, that was Lily James, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and she went full pirate. She went full pirate for Yesterday. So I wonder if she's now thinking, oh shit, did that wrong.
Literally, didn't put the work in that Rafe did.
Yeah. No. She listened to Charlie and she was like, that's how you do it.
Silly Lily. Interesting that it went from basically a two-hander between Edith Pretty and Basil Brown, and it was all these sort of like long looks and interesting conversation and similar ideas and principles, and then Monica Dolan, who I love and adore and needs more everything because she's just wonderful, comes in, and then gradually it essentially becomes like a six-hander. Like it's almost like you come in halfway and it's a completely different movie to what we were just watching. Do you think that was... I don't know, what did you think about that?
I have to say I was confused when she came in, because I thought, it can't be his wife. Is it his sister? And I was really sort of this is all wrong. this is completely jarred everything. Like you say, it suddenly turned into something else. But I absolutely loved her. Thought she was just brought it. She brought it.
She's perfect. She's a perfect actress, and she's so perfect that everyone sort of forgets about her because she's just encapsulates every role that she's in, and she's just a fabulous actress.
It did feel like there was an act 1 and act 2. Like act 1 was the dig-in and the 2 characters, and then act 2 is like, let's bring all the other characters in.
Yeah.
Like it suddenly sort of changed. Yeah.
Yeah, and let's tick all of those boxes as well that we have to tick, because we can't do the whole movie just about this, surely. Yeah, which is what.
They could have. Yeah. But then that also illustrated, Basil Brown did get sidelined, and he, other people did come and take over, and so that's kind of how it was.
That's a very good point.
I wondered how tolerant they really would have been of him storming off and then coming back and then storming off and then coming back again, and all that is probably slightly more petulant than he would have been. I don't know, but
I loved it. Very dramatic, though.
Off on his bicycle, yeah.
There he goes.
There was great debate about whether or not bicycles in 1939 had kickstands, because when he parks up, first of all, outside the house, he stands it up.
I wonder if bicycles in those days had the ability to go from disc to something. Some good tyres.
Yeah, you
great.
really do.
Let's talk about the kid. He did some absolutely amazing crying. And British kids can be a bit hit and miss, but he went full Henry Thomas on that. I was like, wow, okay, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. America definitely has the better child actors, whether you're going from E.T. through to like Stranger Things, but we just need to look at the Harry Potter franchise to sort of see what we've been able to.
Hogwarts history.
History. Stop. I thought he was really, really great, and I thought that he pretty much held his own between two quite established. I mean, Ralph Fiennes is bloody established, and Carey Mulligan's getting there if she's not there already. Huge British actors, and he was a third character amongst them, and sort of brought the theme of, if the three of them were the themes of the past, the present, and the future, he definitely held his own within that sort of trio of theme.
Definitely.
He done ever so well.
And he did make me cry.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I rate him.
Yeah. Did everybody else well up at that point? I was like, oh, he did it so well. His mum will be so proud.
I was blaring. Definitely blaring.
So, did she die at the end? Was that the car when he was all in black and Basil Brown waved off? Was she like in the back of that car as a corpse? Or
no, she died. She died years later. Yeah.
In 1942, she died.
Yeah.
I thought that, but then there was that shot where she's doing that very sort of filmic, peaceful. She's in the boat, in the blanket, looking up at the stars, and her son's there being like, Mom, isn't it majestic? And she's like, I'm dying. And then there was like a car in the distance, and he was all in black, and she wasn't there. And Basil Brown like waved to him. So I was like,
Do you know, I think we were meant to think that she died. I think that was meant to be our closure, and that was probably the Hollywood thing or the Netflix thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she didn't die until 1942, but obviously the film wasn't going to,
the
I
film
think it was
almost
definitely
forward.
closure. Yeah, like a closure for us. And I think
For
it was
us as viewers,
symbolic of her. This is her moment in a boat.
And if she like represents the present, as it were, then her dying then means that the present as we know it comes to an end because war is here now. And they were very sort of heavy-handed with their like, look at the aeroplanes, we're on the brink of war. We're at war now, can you tell? Because the plane has crashed and we've literally seen it. We've seen the plane. It's here now because the war is here now. It's like, yes, thank
James
you.
did a shag of a pilot,
A pilot who was like,
shag.
You must not die, I'll get my wings soon. And then the very next shot is a dead man with like wings prominently. It's like, yes, we know he's gonna die because the war is very sad, but you're not gonna show the war, are you? I did think it not abruptly ended, but I was like, oh, like I kind of wanted I mean, it is just the same movie again, isn't it? When they come back after the war, they're like, well, as you were. Just
More digging.
More digging.
More digging.
Dig back up what we've already undug. But I was hoping for photographs in the credits of what they really looked like. I had to
I like it
Google
when
it.
they do that.
Yeah.
I'm a big
Same.
fan of that.
Yeah. Yes. No. So the photographs were all of the cast, weren't they? Not the original pictures. So
Yeah,
they missed a
and
trick
it's
there. But then that would have highlighted their inaccuracies and their merging and ignoring of characters, wouldn't it? So
That's probably exactly why they didn't do it.
yeah.
Yeah. Like, who's that woman holding a camera?
Yeah,
She wasn't there.
and I think Lily James was much younger as well than, or at least she definitely looks it. I'm not quite sure how old Peggy Piggott was, but
What, Lily James is younger than Peggy Piggott?
I think
I
so.
thought that, I was going to say, you know, when we were talking at the beginning about Carey's age, the one thing that did distract me was Lily's age, because I thought, Lily James, we're supposed to believe she's married to Ben Chaplin, who's 50.
Who was her father in Cinderella 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And
Welcome to Hollywood, Lily.
yeah, and the other thing that I did Google was I had to Google whether they wore crop tops in 1930.
I thought that too, actually.
So I was like,
Same.
that's a lot of waistline.
Yeah.
That's
It
a
was
lot of waistline to be
and there was
showing.
also,
For
she
someone
was
not
wearing a
at the
very
beach.
short skirt. She was wearing
Yeah.
a very, very short skirt for 1939, was it?
But you know what?
Yeah.
They did wear crop tops, and they did wear those little shirts tied in the middle. I was like,
Funny,
wow, they're
though,
so
isn't
ahead.
it?
Between the wars, so ahead of its time.
Well, they were in the roaring 20s. They were probably still, you know, they'd just gone through a global pandemic. So everyone was like, woo, crop tops for everyone.
Exactly.
So maybe we'll see a resurgence in a couple of years' time of the crop top. But, well, we kind of have already.
I
But
really hope not.
the croppier crop top.
Please, God, no.
But yeah, no, I was sort of taken aback there as well. I was like, Lily, I can almost see your abs. As nice as they are, we are nearly in the 40s. The acting was the type of acting that I would send clips to acting students of. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
just so many stares of people like subtext. Like, like the acting was so loud. Do you know what I mean? Even though no one was talking, the acting was so prominent. It's like, you know exactly what I'm saying, even though I'm not saying anything. And I'm like, oh, they're so good. Look at them
I think that
act.
was very much highlighted with that technique, with the staringness and then talking
Yeah.
underneath. Yeah, made it more intense, even though they weren't actually doing it then and there. Yeah.
So intense. So do you think anyone is a contender for an Academy Award, possibly more so a BAFTA?
Well, I think Ray Fiennes should win all the awards ever for being the first ever actor to be able to pull off a convincing Suffolk accent.
That is fair
And
enough.
Charlie Haylock should get a special.
Yeah, she get like a
award.
mini Oscar to go with it.
I don't think dialect coaches get Oscars, and it should be.
They really
recognised.
should. Because
A campaign needs to start now. Yeah, dialect coaches to
there
be.
are lots
Yeah.
of film people, like stunt doubles, don't get anything.
awful, because for like superhero movies, they are the superhero.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's silly. No, I think we should. Ray Fiennes should. I'll contact Ray Fiennes and I'll tell him if he wins the Oscar, he needs a little one with a flat cap on it to give to Charlie Haylock. Maybe put it in
It's
the
such an
dirt.
achievement, though. Like if you think about like
Honestly.
no other actor is. I mean, he is technically from Suffolk, but still, he managed to do it. He managed to do what no other actor's done before: be a Suffolk on film.
And I think what was so great is how intense he was about it. He came onto the set and he really clearly cared about this story and this character. I'd love to talk to him about it because he wanted to get it right, and he picked the people around him because they were sort of harsh on him and they were like, "You're not doing it right, Rafe," and he was like, "Good, tell me more of that." And so was
But he
Monica
worked
Dolan.
hard for it. So, like, if an
Yeah.
actor works hard for something, that makes a lot of difference. And he wasn't doing a Russell Crowe going, "Yeah, I could do a Nottingham accent, whatever."
No worries.
Um,
Yeah, literally. And I think that's really commendable. And just really again, lovely to see, because they easily could have phoned that in. They could have been like, a movie? Yeah, I do 3 of them a year. What we doing here? Okay. But it felt crafted. It felt like everyone on board had a story to tell, and they had their script and they'd gone through it with a highlighter, and they had their little actor's thesaurus next to it, and it just felt like everyone had worked hard on it, you know.
There was a nice, going back to the cinematography, a lot of the shots I noticed were sky. So, like, the actual land was very, very, I'm going to do it on my screen, like, low on the screen. And there's a little tiny Ray Fiennes, and then there's a huge, like, sky. I just really liked that. Nothing, like, spectacular, but it was just a nice, you felt open. It felt like you were outside because there was so much sky. Whereas some outside exterior shots will be a whole load of ground and a bit of tree, but by seeing so much sky, you really felt like you were outside for some reason.
Yeah, such a good point. I hadn't even clocked that as a thing, but you're absolutely right. Yeah, the sweeping Suffolk skyline is what we're known for. And yeah,
we were talking about that all the way through, actually. Me and my husband, we were saying, gosh, it is so Suffolk. They've captured Suffolk with the shots, because, you know, if you go on Instagram, anybody from Suffolk who's on Instagram who goes for a walk, you know, will take a photograph with the sea or the coast or the landscape or the Snape marshes or whatever, and then masses of sky, and then the milky sunshine. I mean, those shots with the milky sun behind the cloud or the mist.
Yeah, it was lovely, wasn't it? Really,
it was
really
phenomenal.
nice.
You were just in Suffolk. The light and everything was exactly here. It couldn't have been more Suffolk, the whole thing, could it?
Yeah.
Really, it was beautiful.
It felt
beautiful.
emotional for that reason.
Yeah, didn't it?
Homely.
Didn't it?
And I
Loved
hope
it.
people who aren't from Suffolk can watch it and feel that too, and think, oh, let's go there for a holiday, you know, just somewhere that isn't depicted as much.
Exactly. It's so true. It's really lovely that you said your American friends were interested in it, because so often I feel all we sort of give out, because all of my American friends are like, The Crown, what was Margaret Thatcher really like?
Yeah.
And I'm like, go and watch The Dig. Like, there's
Bridgerton.
stuff outside of London. Bridgerton is American, let's be honest.
So American. It's made for American audiences.
It's American.
Absolutely.
Not a bad thing, but it's American. And like, there's so much more to England than London. And when people think of the countryside, they think of that sort of hot fuzz, Somerset, Cornwall. But come this way, there's plenty here. Whole coastline of it.
I've got a fun fact about Stuart Piggott.
Ooh.
Fun personal fact. When I was a student, I was in a Burger King advert with him.
No way!
What? The actual man?
The actual actor, Ben Chapman,
Oh, the
who played
actor.
Stuart Piggott.
I thought you meant the actual.
Yeah. No, Stuart Piggott wasn't an actual. No, but
Career
that
change at the end of his life.
that would have actually been a way better story.
I was so
Kind of wish that had been the story. I'm so sorry to disappoint
wow.
you guys.
That
No,
was-
the actor.
No, Ben Chapman
right.
was just as good.
Yeah.
What, that sounds amazing. Did you have to eat like 12 burgers in like an hour?
Did have to eat a lot of burgers, and
Did Ben Chapman have a Whopper?
I think he did order a Whopper, actually. I think that's when they just come out. But anyway, yeah, so total distraction from the film. But I thought, fun fact to throw
No,
out
that's
there.
That
really
was an
fun.
amazing fact. The confusion that swept over us.
Yeah,
Oh, I know.
it's amazing.
I was just going to talk about food as well. I just loved when he picked up the lemon drizzle cake. I've been wanting lemon drizzle cake for days now since watching that. Such a tiny bit of the movie, but then I was just like, I keep thinking about them every day. And I don't have an oven, I only have a microwave and ring, so I can't make any cakes. That's just really sad.
You try and make it in a mug in the microwave. Try
I've
and
heard
see.
about this. Does it work?
I've never tried it, and I daren't. But my sister's a connoisseur of mug cakes, so
I might have to do that because I've been
Give it a
craving
Google.
cakes so bad, and I
Yeah.
don't want to buy one.
no. You're
But
gonna
didn't
have
that
to-
lemon drizzle look amazing? It had the perfect crusty top, didn't it? I was really noticing. I was like, wow, they've really paid attention to the top because it's crusty.
I'm glad
Yeah.
that was just me then. 'cause I was
No, I looked at it and thought that is a cracking lemon drizzle
Yeah.
cake.
Hardcore
Now I
lemon
really
drizzle
want one now.
cake.
But all in all,
Yeah.
I enjoyed. Apart from the thrown in Hollywood checklist, that's my
Yes.
only drawback, but I don't think it detracts too much for me.
And I think that's it, isn't it? Like, it's startlingly obvious where Hollywood is sort of bustled in with their elbows, but luckily it's so minimal or so right at the end where you're Googling who Stuart Piggott was in real life anyway, that it doesn't take away from, I mean, what's an exceptional first act, a very interesting second act, and just a great story overall. And genuinely, I'm not even joking, like, I would watch a dig like 1.5 where they uncover it after the war and they just tell us what happened then rather than just a couple of sentences. My last thought actually was the font. The font that they used really threw me because it looked like the kind of font that would be used in like a Fast and Furious movie or something. Did anyone else feel it? It felt actiony.
My 13-year-old son pointed that out at the end. He said that was the kind of thing that he would do on one of his little YouTube things. Yeah, I don't know why. It felt
very like, bam, the dig coming to a cinema near you, rather than like what it is.
More like...
But the font for the actual thing.
I thought it was more Times New Roman, italic.
No, it's very sort of actiony.
You kind of expected them to have an outtakes reel or something with it.
And it came up at the beginning.
Which might be very funny. I wonder how many...
I would love to see the outtakes for this one. It's like... There you go. Can you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like copper plate.
Oh, it's like the Bourne Ultimatum.
Yeah!
Yes, exactly.
He came with a trowel and a satchel.
Yeah. Literally. And he dug in the ground, and what he would find, no one knew. Is it Viking? You'll have to tune in to find out. That was so exciting, can I just say, like, genuinely, I got such thrills when he was like, I think it's Anglo-Saxon. And they're like, it's Viking. It's like 100% going to be Viking. Maybe Roman, I don't know, maybe it's Viking. And then at one point they were like, by Jupiter! It's Anglo-Saxon! And Ray Fiennes looks really smug, and Edith Pretty is like, well, yes, Ray Fiennes has been saying that for the entire movie. And you're just like, it's Anglo-Saxon! That's so exciting! It's so old! It's so old! Well done, everyone! It's so old! Like, I got into... You know when you watch the Olympics and you become a professional, whatever they're doing, and you understand how the scores work, and you're like, what a brilliant triple twist! I understand gymnastics. I kind of got a bit like that with archaeology, where I was like, it's Anglo-Saxon, everyone! Congratulations! Well done.
He knew what he was looking at.
He did.
He knew that was Saxon.
So exciting.
Sorry,
and just so exciting as well in the sense of like our own history. Like, as I forget, like, because you grow up and you go to Sutton Hoo and you go to Colchester Castle because it's the closest things available and often free. And then you go elsewhere and you're like, actually, we were like the capital of England at some point. Like, we're on it. Like, we're so cool. Like, that's so awesome about us.
Well, that's the start of England as a nation state, isn't it? That's the first. Redwold was the first kind of king of an area, which then grew to become England. And Ipswich is the first settlement. I know Roman Colchester claims it as its first Roman town, but Ipswich was the first permanent settlement that's then continued. So cool. we is right on it.
And King Edmund,
and King Edmund,
he should so be the patron saint of England. Sorry, St. George, but dragons, whatever. And like, he was a real guy.
And wasn't George Turkish as well?
Yeah, something like that. Shut
off.
Make a campaign for that. I bet there probably is, actually, Suffolk people trying to get him.
I think BBC Radio Suffolk might have mentioned that one or two times over the last 10 years. With lots of campaigns. Let's get Charlie Haylock an Oscar for dialect coach, and then we'll turn our attention to that.
Then we got patron Saint Edmund of England. We also need to get the Sutton Hoo treasures back to Sutton Hoo. So that's 3 petitions so far. We're on it. We're going to change the world.
Can we also get Mavis on the One Show to talk about Suffolk and the Suffolk dialect? That's my aim.
Gosh.
That's my goal for this year. I have to get Mavis on there.
Possibly more realistic than looting the British Museum.
Anything else. But... We'll put that to the top.
Yeah, I just want to get her out there so people can hear stuff. Well, now that the dig has happened, I'm just like, yes!
I think now's the time, isn't it? You
Yeah.
Like,
moment.
Hey,
there has never been a Suffolk character, I don't think. Not to my knowledge.
No, not that I'm aware
She can lead the campaign, Laura.
Take a sign with a...
Yeah.
Can I
have a little placard?
Is this going to be insane? But can we do a screen grab, or can
yeah,
I do a
of
screen
course.
grab
Yes.
with Mavis in the
Oh, yes, please.
thing? Because it's just really surreal and silly. I'll get my sandwiches out of the way.
Mavis on Zoom. Has Mavis been on Zoom yet?
She has, or on one of the episodes of Georgie's, and chaos ensues.
Oh, she on
because
Zoom.
I've just realised I can't do a screen grab because I won't use her hand. I'll just have her face. I'm going to have to do that. You can't see me there, can you?
No.
Okay. How do I do a screen grab? Okay. Oh my god. This is much harder than it looks.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's get her eyes focused. That's cute. Okay. Oh my god, I'm doing it like left-handed. This is really hard. Okay. Just had to do that.
So cute. I'm gonna get one.
It's just really surreal as well. I quite like looking at that.
She
It's
suits
great.
it. She looks beautiful.
You're right, Mavis.
Yeah, she looked more exciting than me, yeah.
Aw.
There's a
I don't know-
news
I don't know if
report
we're in the-
of a farm who's hiring out goats to appear in Zoom calls. So
Goats.
foxes could do that, couldn't they? £5 a
Yeah.
time.
£5.
Yeah.
You get a lot of lemon drizzle cakes with that, do you?
Right, yeah, I need to get Mavis on the one show.
Yes.
Oh, we need to get on there.
I'll probably I'll just start talking absolute rubbish, talk and squit, and then I'll just... That's what I was doing last night on Georgie's show. I just couldn't stop talking. I was like, oh my goodness. I listened to it back and I was like, I need to shut up.
No, never.
There was moments where Georgie was going... And I was just like... Stop.
I love that, where you're like, oh gosh.
I was getting excited. I was very excited. Talk about puppetry in Suffolk, so...
It's fair. Any last thoughts on the dig?
It would be interesting to see whether more films come here, whether people come for holidays, and whether sales of trowels go up.
Yeah, well, you know, if 50 Shades of Grey can have a BDSM revolution, maybe the dig can have an archaeology revolution.
Dig and revelation.
Dig and revelation.
You dig the dig.